Welcome back to part 18 of elementary logic. In this video, we will learn about comparative study of traditional and modern classification of propositions. This is a very easy topic. We have covered almost all of what is going to come in this video in the earlier videos. So this will be a little bit on a faster side. So let's start the topic. This is as per the first year BA LLB syllabus from Mumbai University, semester 1 for elementary logic. The classification of propositions is a fundamental aspect of logic, helping us analyze the structure and the truth of the statement. This is very important for a statement. That is, for a proposition, structure and truth of statements is very important. Traditional classification focuses on categorical propositions. So even if there is a distinguish between traditional and modern, we can say that traditional focuses on categorical propositions, while modern classification incorporates advances in logical theory, including quantifiers and compound propositions. Quantifiers we studied in the earlier video, that is universal quantifier and existential quantifier. And we also learned about compound propositions and conjunction, disjunction, and so on. Traditional classification of propositions. Let's understand the definition based on Aristotle's syllogistic logic. Basically, the traditional classification is based on Aristotle's syllogistic logic, primarily deals with categorical propositions and focuses on the relationship between the subject and the predicate. The types of categorical propositions are fourfold classification, that is universal affirmative, universal negative, particular affirmative, and particular negative. All of these I've already covered in the previous videos. I hope you have not directly jumped onto this video. So universal affirmative is represented by A, universal negative by E, particular affirmative by I, and particular negative by O. A states, that is universal affirmative states, all S are P. Universal negative E proposition states no S are P. Particular affirmative I states some S are P, and particular negative O proposition states some S are not P. So the keywords here is all, are, no, are, some are not. The key features include the focus on subject-predicate relationship, that is traditional propositions or traditional logic was focused on the subject-predicate relationship. It uses terms such as universal, particular, affirmative, and negative. Logical operations like contraries, contradictions, and subalternations are central. Limitations: does not accommodate compound propositions like conditionals or disjunctions. Limited to syllogistic reasoning, less flexible for modern application. Now let's look at the modern classification of propositions. Definition: modern classification focuses on formal logic, integrating quantifiers and compound propositions. It emphasizes precise symbolic representation, which we have covered in previous videos. Kinds of propositions. Simple propositions include single statements without logical connectivities, and compound propositions. Compound propositions include statements which involves connectivities like conjunction, represented by and symbol, for example P and Q, disjunction, or symbol, P or Q, conditional, right-headed arrow, if P then Q, bidirectional, P if and only if Q, negation, not P. Incorporates quantifiers. Quantifiers which we studied in the earlier video, universal and existential. Universal means for all x, And for existential, it means there exists x such that is there exists at least one x. Advantages: accommodates complex relationships using connectivities and quantifiers, includes truth tables for evaluation, applicable to advanced reasoning, including mathematical proofs and legal analysis. Let's do the comparison table. Traditional classification is basically is concerned with the subject predicate relations, whereas modern classification uses quantifiers and connectives. Traditional classification uses proposition types like universal affirmative, universal negative, particular affirmative, and particular negative. Whereas modern classification proposition types include simple and compound. Compound is further subclassified as conjunction, disjunction, etc. Traditional classification quantifiers, it does not use any quantifiers, whereas modern classification uses universal and existential quantifiers. Traditional classification does not include any compound proposition, whereas modern classification is fully integrated with compound propositions. Traditional classifications uses logical square of opposition, whereas modern classification uses truth tables. This we will learn later on in the video which will be coming up in module 3, logical square of opposition. And truth tables also we'll learn in detail. Traditional classification is applied, uh, basically it is for simple reasoning. So it is limited to simple reasoning, whereas modern classification application involves extensive application in law, mathematics, etc. Let's take an example of each one of them. Traditional classification, all lawyers are ethical, or we can state all four propositions, which is all lawyers are ethical, no lawyers are ethical, some lawyers are ethical, or some lawyers are not ethical. Modern classification example include if a lawyer is ethical, then they are trusted. So we are using if then proposition. This is known as conditional proposition. All right. How do we use this? What is its applications in legal reasoning? So traditional classification in legal context is used for generalization. Example, no minors can vote. This is a universal negative. This is E proposition. Modern classification in legal context. It handles complex conditions and exceptions. Example, if a contract lacks consideration, it is void. P implies Q. Quantifiers are crucial for statutes. For example, for all citizens, taxes are mandatory. So this can be written in a symbolic form. For all citizens implies they have to pay taxes. If they are citizens, they will have to pay taxes. Let's look at few question answers. What is the primary focus of traditional classification of proposition? The primary focus is on subject-predicate relationships in categorical propositions. Name two types of quantifiers we already know in modern logic. One is universal and the other is existential quantifier. Give an example of a compound proposition. If it rains, the ground will be wet. P implies Q. How does modern classification address the limitation of traditional logic? This is done by including compound propositions, quantifiers, truth tables for complex analysis. Let's look at few MCQs. Which of the following is a universal affirmative proposition? Universal affirmative position is implied by proposition type A. A means this one. All S are P. Some S are not P is represented by which proposition? This is represented by O proposition. No SRP is represented by which proposition? It is represented by E proposition. Some SRP is represented by I proposition. In modern logic, which symbol represents bidirectional? Of course, this one. This represents conjunction, this represents disjunction, this represents negation. What does the quantifier mirrored A signify? It signifies for all. And there exists is represented by which quantifier? It is represented by existential quantifier. Not is represented by which quantifier? It is represented by negation. Which proposition type is not included in traditional classification? Of course, conditional is not represented. All three are represented. Traditional classification focuses on categorical propositions. The quantifier represents existential proposition. Truth tables are used in modern classification of propositions. The logical form for if then Q is represented by P right-headed arrow Q. Okay, traditional classification includes compound propositions. This is a false statement. It includes categorical propositions. The statement some contracts are void is a particular affirmative proposition. That's correct. It is particular affirmative proposition and it is represented by type I. Modern logic uses quantifiers like universal and existential. True. Truth tables are not part of traditional classification. True. It is part of the modern logic or modern classification. I suppose this completes our entire topic of general propositions. That is, sorry, not general propositions. This is about comparative study of traditional and modern classification of propositions. So basically we have done a distinguish between or a distinction between the traditional and the modern classifications of proposition. Thank you very much for giving up your time, precious time, to listening to this video. I hope this video helps you in your exams. Best of luck. If you found it useful and you are listened to this video till the end, do subscribe, share, like. More importantly, share it with your friends. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye bye.